This past weekend, there really wasn't a whole lot to watch, but there was a new horror film called Clown In A Cornfield, which is the newest Shudder film to hit theaters. Hey everyone, my name is Ryan. Thank you guys for clicking on this video. If you like reviews like this, definitely hit the subscribe button. I do all kinds of reviews on this channel. And also give the video a like. It'll go out into the algorithm, and maybe it'll help people decide if they want to watch this movie or not. Now, this movie, it was directed by Eli Craig, and I've never seen any of his previous works, though I know that he's done Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, which I've heard some mixed reviews on, but I definitely want to get to that film eventually. This film in particular, it's about a Midwestern town that's kind of crumbling before everyone's eyes, and you have Frendo, who is a clown, who is going around killing everyone in slasher fashion. Now, this film, it stars Katie Douglas, Aaron Abrams, and Kevin Durand. And I was very optimistic about this film because it was getting some really rave reviews in the festival circuit, but at the same time, Shudder has not really had that great of a year, so then again, I was kind of cautious going into this film. I'll start off with the positives and say that Quinn, she is the main character here. We have a lot of building with the relationship with her father here, in which they're moving to this town that's apparently stuck in the 90s. Their mother has recently passed away, and they need a fresh start. I also like how this film was actually shot. I think some of the shot composition is pretty good. I think some of the music, there's a lot of like rave music in here. I think it fits for the certain kind of genre that they're going for here, and some of the characters and kind of like their moods and their personalities. I think it fits for what they're trying to do and certain aspects of this film. I also did like some of the kills in here. I wouldn't say the kills are very inventive. I would say that this movie is pretty generic, which really leads me into my negatives for this film. One of the problems I think for me for this film is the fact that this movie is super tropey, especially the fact that you have this father and daughter relationship, and to me that relationship was kind of all over the place. I felt at times like he was being very authoritative towards his daughter, and then other times it just seemed like he didn't really care. There's kind of like a mixed mesh of their relationship that I didn't really buy throughout this film. I just felt like it was just kind of all over the place. I think the kills, to me, I didn't really think they really stood out that much other than maybe a couple kills. I would say within like the first 50 minutes of this film we get like 2 kills, and those kills really are just random people. We don't really get any character development with those said characters that get killed off. Though for the first 50 minutes of this film, we really just see like the relationship between the father and daughter here. We hear about the town. We hear that there's this big parade going on, Founders Day, which this movie in small doses reminded me of Founders Day, but I didn't like that film last year, and I think this film, it's a step up from that film, and I think the acting is better as well. And then it also reminded me a little bit of Thanksgiving, but like in the slightest aspect. And throughout this 50 minutes, the pacing of this film, I would say, is like the downfall of this film, because it takes a little bit to really kind of pick up and really get going. Yeah, you get a few kills within that time frame, but you're getting a lot of development of the relationship with the father and daughter. You're getting times where they're at school and they're doing all these pranks. You have these teenagers that are on YouTube and they're trying to get famous and trying to get all these likes and views on their videos, and they're pulling all these pranks at the same time. So like a lot of that time period is just spending all these times with these characters. They're kind of annoying, but you kind of really expect that because that's those kind of characters, you know, in these kind of movies. They always are kind of like that. They don't really develop a lot of those characters. Again, they're just kind of playing jokes and such. And then we kind of get into the story with the clown here. And when we get into the story with the clown here, I can say that at certain aspects, yes, there is some decent kills, but at the same time, I just felt like a lot of these kills, they didn't really amount to nothing. There's just like a lot of times where some of the kills, you're just kind of like, all right, I've seen that many of times. And then when it hits about the hour mark and it really starts to kick into gear of the story and really doesn't add up fully with the title, if you watch the film, you'll know what I mean. When it gets to that aspect, I was like, oh, I think I know exactly where we're really going with this film. And as it keeps kind of going along and revealing its cards and it gets towards the third act, man, that reveal is just like so Scooby-Doo-like. And there was another character, and I would say this is like a minor spoiler, but there's a character that they develop where Quinn is kind of forming like a love connection with. And later on in the film, we find out that this character is not even straight. He's gay. I don't have a problem with that, but why would you waste your time throughout the entirety of this movie sharing this character as being straight and then later on revealing that he is gay? I mean, it just didn't really make a whole lot of sense. It was very weird in the writing aspect. And to me, I just don't really understand ultimately why this is getting such rave reviews. Because to me, I watch a lot of horror films, I watch a lot of slasher films, And to me, there just wasn't really a whole lot with this film. I mean, there's a little bit of blood here and there, but I wouldn't say it's like really gory. I guess a lot of people kind of set the bar really high when they think of gore because they think of like Terrifier, but it's nowhere near that. And I've heard some people actually compare this film to Terrifier. I have no idea how, because it's just nowhere near that, and it doesn't even have that kind of mentality to it. It doesn't even have that kind of brutality to it. It has like certain kills where, yeah, there's some blood here and there, but I mean, it's just nowhere near on the doorstep of Terrifier. To me, also, I felt like the tone was off in this movie. There were times where it was really trying to be really serious, and then there's other times where it starts to go into like the comedy realm, and I was like, should I take this as a horror or should I take this as a comedy? And an example of that is when one of the characters is actually getting killed. She turns to her friend, she goes, "Is it really bad?" And she's like, "It's bad." And then I was like, are we trying to go for the comedy route here? I thought this was going to be more of a serious kind of film. And as the film really goes into the third act and it really starts to go into more of its reveals, I felt like there's just kind of like plot hole after plot hole after plot hole. There's this whole factory setting that is supposedly like so important to this town, and I felt like it just didn't really have a lot to the story overall. Some of the reasoning for some of these characters doing certain things, and then the clown himself, and just like the reveal with the clown as well. Which, I mean, I don't know. It went off the rails for me. And by the time it got to that third act and got all Scooby-Doo, like, I was like, nah, I'm just, like, done with this film. I just think for me, there's better slashers out there. I kind of don't understand the rave reviews. But I'm glad that most people seem to be enjoying this. But for me, it's just a very generic slasher. I just think there's a lot better films out there. I mean, it's fine to watch on streaming probably once, but is it something that I'm going to go out and buy or watch over and over again? Definitely not. And I think that's mainly from the story aspect, because once it switches to the 60-minute mark and it starts to reveal its cards and then I start to figure everything out, I was like, oh, so that's all it really is. And then it doesn't really have any originality with it after that. Then it just starts copying kind of other movies that you've seen before. And then some of the reasoning just gets really messy. So overall for me, I would say this movie, it's kind of meh. I'm kind of torn between like a 2 and a 2.5. But I think ultimately I'm going to give it a 2 because I just felt kind of meh after watching this. Yeah, there were moments that I liked, and I liked the main character. But when it really came down to it, I just thought it was kind of messy in its execution and its story. There's plot holes. And I think the relationship between the father and daughter was just kind of messy, and then the tone, which really kind of messed it up for me, where I wasn't really sure like what they were really aiming for, because the film isn't funny whatsoever, but when it tries to go into that comedy, I mean, my audience didn't even really laugh, so I don't know if it's really working for everyone else, but for me, I just think overall this movie, it just doesn't work all the way for me, so I can only give it a 2 out of 5. But I do want to hear from you guys. What did you guys think about Clown in a Cornfield? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you just think it was kind of meh? Leave any and all comments down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.